So there's a lot of topics that I need to get to that broke recently, mainly about what's going on with International Fight Week, how the tribe is facing Caleb Barala for an interim title. Looks like, but we got Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates this weekend. A very good card. There's a lot of fights that I'm interested in. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with Chelsea Chandler versus Jocelyn Edwards. This one, it, it's it's pretty straightforward to me. Um, I think Jocelyn Edwards will win this. Um, Looking at Chelsea Chandler, she beat uh Jose, Jose Nunez, not a really good win. She lost in one with Demonte, a top contender. But looking at Jerusalem Edwards, she had a really good performance against Jimenez Vidal. She lost to Aline Perez and Nora Canole, two really good competitors in this division. And um, when I look at this fight, I feel that Jerusalem Edwards has more ways to win this fight. So I'm going to go with her to win by decision. Um she lost two decisions in a row to two good fighters. She does have 9 fights by finish. She is a really good striker. And I just believe that she is a bit better all around in the grappling department. So I'm going to go with Jocelyn Edwards. Moving on to Timmy Kwamba versus Roberto Romero. This is an interesting one to me. So Timmy Kwamba is coming off a two-fight losing streak, a two-fight loss streak to Lucas Almeida and Bellagio Key, both by decision. Before that, he was on a, um, I believe, a 3 or 4 fight win streak. You look at Roberto Romero lost to David Onama in his last fight. Um, Submitted Takiro Ashida, lost to Patrick Lane. When I look at this fight, it's a pretty even fight in my eyes. Ultimately, I went with Roberto Romero. He impressed me in his last 2 fights, and I see him setting the pace in this fight, whether it is in the grappling or just, you know, uh, pushing the pace in the cage, being the one uh, pushing forward and moving forward. So I'm going to go with Romero, probably by a 29-28 decision. Moving on to Jacqueline Moran versus Poliana Vienna. This is an interesting one. Looking at Jacqueline Moran, she is on a tear right now. Ever since losing to Sam Hughes by unanimous decision, she TKO'd Conedro Ruiz. She armbarred Corey McKenna in the first round and armbarred Vanessa Demo. Demo I'm not gonna try and say her name. But she's coming out from 2 arm bars. You look at Poliana Vienna. She lost to Joanne Roberts, who I do think is pretty decent in this division. I don't see her becoming a top contender. Lucindo got submitted by her, not a bad loss. She knocked out Frey in the first round, lost it to Walter Ritchie. Um, Probably Vienna could be a really, really good um fighter in this division. I just I question her motivation going into it, and every one of her fights, I really do. It's I don't know whether it's camp or whether it's like nerves during a fight. I don't know. I always just say bad things around her camps. So I'm going to go with Jacqueline Warren. to get it done by a second round submission. I feel she's on a really good run. She's training hard, and ultimately it comes down to I'm not very confident in Polina Vienna. Um, yeah, it's more of that than me really being confident that Morum is going to have this dominant performance in this fight. But we'll see. Moving on to the next fight, we have Cameron Simon taking on Malcolm Wellmaker. Cameron Simon has had a tough outing his last two fights. Got TKO'd by Peyton Talbot and lost to Christian Rodriguez by unanimous decision. Before that, though, he knocked out Terrence Mitchell in the first round, beat Mana Martinez by decision, and KO'd Steven Carswell. You look at Malcolm Wellmaker, he's coming in from the contender series, had a first round knockout against Adam Bramhall, um, and honestly looks like a monster. Yeah, I believe, um, five knockouts or six knockouts. I could be wrong, but when I look at this fight, I it was tough. I wanted to go with Simon, but again, he's coming off of two losses, and there's some questions in his camp. I heard that he missed a lot of media. Um, Also the fact too that Wellmaker seems to be a finisher, and if he can find the right shot, he can put out Simon. But yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see how Simon is impacted with whatever's going on. Um, Before I heard that though, I was going to go with him. Um, but we'll see. Again, I really, when it comes to people coming in on the contender series, I'm really iffy about it because we see a lot of guys that push way too fast. Not a lot of people like Patty Finwood took his time. He, his progression at the right rate. Worked his way up the channel and now is a top contender in the lightweight division. Probably one or two fights away from the title. But I'm going to go with Wellmaker. With all that being said, moving on to Demon Blackshear versus Alton Joey. Um, I like the run that Demon Blackshear is on. In fact, I've been a fan of Damon Blackshear for quite some time. He has submitted Cody Gibson and Cody Stamen. Um, Gibson got the one in the second round. Stamen by the first round. Rear naked choke. He had the KO lost to Montel Jackson. Lost to Mario Batista and opening like Mario Batista. Um, you look at Alan Joey though. He's coming off of a win against Clarkson Rodriguez. He looked alright in that fight. Lost to Chris Gutierrez, who is a very tough opponent. Beat Chad Unger and Kevin Crew. I like Demon Blackshear in this fight. I feel like Demon Blackshear is similar to like Manel Cop and a lot of these other fighters. I think that Blackshear has a lot of potential in the UFC, and I do believe he could be a top contender. It's just a matter of him showing it. And in his last two fights, he has shown that he definitely has potential. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go with the Mo Blackshear by the seventh decision. I could see him getting another submission, maybe a rear naked choke triangle or something like that. Um, Mainly because he's worked really good in his last two fights, and he's forced where he hit his next stride in his UFC career, and can maybe crack into being a legit contender and be around the top 15. Um, it'd be difficult though. It'd be really difficult though in his division. Moving on to Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Castaneda. Um, this is another interesting one. You look at Chris Gutierrez, he beat Quang Lee in his last fight by unanimous decision, lost to Celia Dong, beat Alton Gentry, lost to Pedro Munoz, KO'd Frank Edgar. Gutierrez is really good. He has only lost to fighters that are in the top 15 or at that level. You look at John Castaneda, though, he lost to Daniel Marcos in his last fight. Daniel Marcos is a really good fighter. Beat Ho Kang and Gafarov. Lost to Daniel Santos, beat Miles Jones. Um, Ultimately, I think Chris Gutierrez can get this done. I see him getting it done by decision, but I'm waiting on him to take it to the next level. Like I really think that Gutierrez can have a breakout performance and have a brutal TKO or just a unbelievable performance on the feet. It's very tricky to read. Um but ultimately, I think he can get it done. I hope he can get it done by a dominant decision because I really like Gutierrez. I really like what he brings and his skill set. But we will have to see. Move, Moving on to the next fight. Evan Elder versus Gage Young. So, Elder's original opponent, I believe, had some questionable stuff with messaging. Uh, I don't know how I'm gonna get into it, but people he shouldn't have, well, you know, below the limit. But yeah. So Evan Elder is fighting Gage Young. He's coming off of a KO win against our Grant. Lost to Quillins killed. Um, Gage Young is really good, and I do think he will be a really good prospect for the years to come. But I just think Evan Elder is on a good run right now. He's been in camp the entire time, um, and it's a short notice fight. I think he gets it done right away. TKO probably in the third round. Um, yeah, the other fighter, I just feel that yeah, I heard apparently he got caught with messages with um I don't know the age. I don't know the age. But it was um yeah, it was bad. And I also think that Alder is a very tough fight. I do like Alder. He's a guy that I have an eye on and I want to see where it goes. So I believe he'll get it done. Probably late in the second or third. But yeah, moving on to Matt Snell versus Jimmy Flick. Um, Again, it makes some of these matchmaking decisions make no sense to me. Like where matches are placed on cards. But looking at this fight, Matt Snell coming off of 3 losses, got submitted by Cody Durden in his last fight, knocked out by Steve Verseg, and TKO'd by Matthias Nikolai. He did beat Sumiderji, but looking at Jimmy Flick, he lost to Nate Maness by unanimous decision. Beat Malcolm Gordon with an arm triangle. Jimmy Flick is a really good grappler and is a submission specialist. Has a lot of wins by submission, but I think that Matt Chanel rebounds. He's coming off of 3 tough losses, and I think he has the advantage on the feet and can compete in the grappling exchanges, I can only see him, potentially being caught by a fluky submission. I think that he will be able to get this done, win each round, um, and yeah, I expect the 30-27. Um, I don't see a lot of finishes on this card, if I'm being honest, but we'll see. Moving on to Ikram Olistrov versus Andre Muniz. This is a really interesting fight. Um, looking at, I want to start off with Andre Muniz. This is a real bumper in, well, I guess he did put Paul Craig and Brendan Allen, but this is a good fight for him. He beat Jung Park in his last fight by split decision. Park is really good. He beat Uriah Hall and Eric Anders. You look at it from a Lister, although he was on a tear going into the Robert Whitaker fight. But we know Whitaker knocked him out in the first round. Um, I still think Oliskarov has a lot of potential in this division. So does Andre Muniz. Ultimately, it's whether Muniz can out grapple because I don't see Muniz having an advantage on the feet. I'm not saying he can't knock out Ostrov. I'm just saying I think that Ostrov is much better on the feet, and that's kind of why I'm going with him. I think a second round TKO, probably some kind of hook combination. His only losses are to Robert Whitaker and Hamza Chimaev. So Hamza Chimaev will potentially probably be the interim middleweight champion in the division. And I see him being able to handle Muniz in most of the grappling exchanges. Um, and for Whiskrov, where does he land there? Because middleweight, I've been saying this for a while, went from a very boring division to a very tough division. You got, Hamza, DDP, Caleb Bravo stepping up, all of these guys. Imavov, who just knocked out Izzy. Olishkarov can put his name back up there for potential guys to make a run. Moving on to Randy Brown versus Nicholas Colby. Randy Brown coming off of a very boring fight against Brian Battle where he lost by split decision. I did have Brian Battle winning that, but he was on a really good run before then. 3 win streak, beat Lezu Zaleski, beat Muslim, Muslim Zawarkov, and Wellington. Oh, I guess not. The Great Wellington, Thurman, is it not? Yeah, that is. Looking at Nicholas Dalby though, he lost to Renat Fakhridinov by split decision in his last fight. Was on a good win streak before then. Um, TKO Gabriel Bonfim, which was a good performance. But I just think that Randy Brown has the experience in this fight. Randy Brown has kind of been a gatekeeper at welterweight and has faced the top of the division. You know, he his second last loss was to JDM, who's fighting for the belt in a short bit here. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Randy Brown to get it done by decision. He's coming off of a boring split decision against Brian Battle, so I think that will fuel him. And I hate to say it, he's kind of a gatekeeper in the welterweight division. Randy Brown is kind of one of the testers for whether or not you are a top contender or just, another guy that will be around around the UFC for a few years, maybe their whole career. But I'm going to go with Randy Brown. We'll see. Maybe he can go on a little win streak. Moving on though to Michelle Pereira versus Boost Magomedov. This is a very interesting one. Michelle Pereira was on a tear before Anthony Hernandez. Um, and he did look good in that Hernandez fight. It's just the fact that Hernandez is a really good grappler, and once again, another guy on the rise, a young, hungry guy looking for the belt. He submitted Igor Pateria in the first round, which is incredible. Igor Pateria is a really tough fight, and I do believe that Igor Pateria could become a top contender. Uh, beat Mikhail Alexi, I can never say his name, submitted him in the first round with a rear naked choke again. Another really tough fight. Andre Petroski TKO'd him, and he beat Santiago Ponce in the illegal by split decision. He looked at a boost to Magomedov. He submitted Bruno Ferreira in his last fight, which was a really good win. Beat Warley Alves by unanimous decision. Lost to Caleb Burrell and Sean Strickland, two top contenders in the middleweight division, and he KO'd Dustin Stoltzfus. I think that Michelle Pereira gets it done, and I think he gets it done by a third round knockout. Um, he lost to Anthony Hernandez, like I said, but again, he looked really good in that fight, and he was on an 8 fight win streak before that. One KO, three submissions, four decisions. He was on a tear before the Anthony Hernandez fight, and I kind of think he can revive that a bit. Maybe go on a little run, and I don't know. I think he struggles with the top 15 to top 10. Well, we'll see. I expect this to be one of the better fights of the night. Moving on to Giga Chikadze versus David Anoma. This is difficult for me. This is really difficult for me. Giga Chikadze coming into the UFC. I remember years ago when he was coming in, he was an insane prospect. Elite kickboxing, looked like a serious threat. But then he had the losses to Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen, who are ranked contenders. But again, it's just a matter of can Giga Chikadze deliver on what he showed coming into the UFC and before against Edson Barboza, against Cubby Swanson. You look at David Onoma, who's on a decent run right now, beat Roberto Romero by unanimous decision, Jonathan Pierce by decision, Gabriel Santos by second round TKO with an uppercut. He lost to Nate Landwehr by majority decision. Nate the Train, shout out to him, legendary fighter, and he beat Garrett Armfeld with an arm triangle. Um, this is tough. This is tough because David Anoma is really good, and I think that David Anoma is a really good striker. I think that um, he was really good when it comes to countering. Giga Chikadze, though, the level of talent that he has, I really want to see him deliver what he showed before. I'm going to go with Giga Chikadze, and I genuinely think he can win this fight. Giga Chikadze is extremely talented. It's just a matter of can he break into the top 15 again. And he looked good against the losses to Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen. And Anoma has been known to slack off in camp, so I believe that Giga Chikadze can kind of um, outland him, stay out on the outside, use his kicks. It would be master for him to get another knockout. Again, though, it's just I really want him to deliver on the hype that he showed before, the losses. But I'm going to with Giga Chikadze by decision. Moving on to the co-main event, Anthony Smith versus Zhang Mingyang. Oh, the retirement fight of Anthony Smith. Now, he's going up against Zhang Mingyang, who Zhang Mingyang is probably the best heavyweight prospect we have coming up. You look at the run he's on, he's basically finished everybody in the first round. RZ Diaz, first round TKO with elbows. Brenton Ribeiro, TKO'd with him with hammer fist. Trick out two coast. Hugo Zhang. He's kind of been demolishing everybody. And, when I was looking at the odds, right, I was like, if Anthony Smith could pull this off, you pick up plus 500. Like, I made like a plus 800 parlay. And, like, it's just maybe if Anthony Smith could, like, turn back the clock for his retirement fight, he's not going to do it, though. He's not going to do it, though. Zhang Mingyang is going to win this fight, probably with a first round knockout. Everyone he has is in the first round. Initially, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Anthony Smith a round. But again, dude, I love Anthony Smith. He's a really good analyst. I really like him on podcasts and that. But he's known to give up in the cage. And he's going in against, like I said, the scariest prospect we currently have coming up in the light heavyweight division. I would say that Anthony Smith has next to zero chance on the feet of Zhang Weiyang at this stage. Maybe prime Anthony Smith, but that's a long shot. So Zhang Mingyang, I believe he's the second biggest favorite on the card. He's gonna get it done by knockout. I'm going first. I could see it being the second round, but yeah. Anthony Smith will go on to open whatever slap fight league that he wants to make now. But now I get to move on to the main event. Ian Garry putting it on the line against Carlos Prates. Um, who do I want to talk about first here? Let's, you know what? Let's go with Ian Garry, right? There's so much you can say about Ian Garry. Number one, I would have hired a different nutritionist. That's just me, though. Um, Ian Garry, before I say this, is a really, really good fighter and can become a champion in the welterweight division. But you have to look at his last few fights. I'm like, I was watching Lucas Tracy's video, his predictions, and he brought up like everybody looks at the self cut loss like, wow man, Ian Garry showed up in that fight. He looked good. He looked good. But it wasn't a close fight. Shavkat Rakhmonov still won that fight comfortably. I don't think anybody saw that fight for Ian Garry. If there was people, very few. And then you get over to Carlos Prates, who's kind of the main topic here. The guy on a, I believe, yeah, a five fight terror, comes into the contender series, TKOs Mitch Ramirez, TKOs Trevor Giles, Charles Radke. I really like Radke. Um, I think he's really good. Then he KOs Li Jingliang. That's a big one. Again, like when you look at Li Jingliang, you think about the big losses with him. You think about like the Hamza loss. I would argue what Carlos Prates did to Li Jingliang was worse than what Hamza did to him. And then he KO'd Neil Magny in the first round. Well, Neil Magny is only years old. He is a veteran, but again, a guy that was around the top 15, around the top of a welterweight 40 years. It could really be a close fight. And there's no way of me saying this without shitting on you and Gary. And honestly, apart from the nutritioner stuff, I have nothing against him. I I bet if I were to meet him in real life, talk to him online, he would be a cool dude in that. But I think it's a tough match. I think that when you look at this camp, the fighting nerds camp, I'm like, uh, it's the damn Avengers of MMA. Like, it reminds me of Greg Jackson back in the day, like American Top Team, or like back when it was really, well, AKA I was gonna say Strike Force, but AKA basically was DC, Luke Rockhold, all those guys. It could also be a close fight, and Ian Gary could win this, and we could be having the conversation about, wow, Ian Gary, you have to throw him in there with a top five opponent. But at the same time, I'm like, he had a split decision with Jeff Neal. Michael Venom Page, I don't see that MVP winning that fight. I might be the only one here. I get it. He took the back. But he did nothing with it. I gave it to MVP. Come at me if you disagree. I think that Ian Gary is talented. I think that Ian Gary will be around the top of the division for quite some time. I see Carlos Prates getting it done by second round knockout. Um, this camp has something others don't at this moment. Like, I don't remember everybody. Like, it's K overall, it's Carlos Prates, John Silva, um, all the bears involved with it. Yeah, right, yeah, yeah. Like, these are some of the most talented fighters we have in the roster, potentially of all time. And they're they're running through people. And again, when you look at Ian Gary's fights, he had really close fights with the top guys he's faced. Where's the masterclass performance against a top 10 contender, a top 15 contender, a top 5 contender? If we're really gonna talk about fighting for the belt here. Um, but yeah, man, this camp is different. I see Carlos Prates getting it done by a second round KO. And then, oh no, man. Welterweight is quite the war zone. Um, hmm, I don't know. We have to see. Am I going to burp or not? Wow. We have to see what goes on with JDM and Bilal whenever Buckley gets announced, or whenever his fight gets announced. But I think Carlos Prates is a different level. I mean, no disrespect to Ian Garry. He will be in the welterweight division and competing at the top for quite some time. But I just think Carlos Prates has something. He is this camp, this fighter has something that other camps don't. But let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about my predictions? Let me know your predictions. This should be a really fun card. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for watching. Later.